Broke His Crown begins with Bonnibel and Marcy dressed in some snazzy new outfits, flying on the morrow to have a dinner party with Ice King. Princess Bubblegum is rather perturbed by the whole notion, having been dragged into the occasion by Marceline, who shows her somewhat rare, eager, and enthusiastic side. PB's snide remarks contribute greatly to the comical nature of the opening dinner sequence, and made me chortle on quite a few occasions.
You're a rhomboid.
Ice King gets some brilliant comedic lines in as well.
This is the best date I've been on since my last date.
This is not a date.
Neither was the last one. It was a robbery.
The easygoing humor really set a nice heartfelt tone to the start of the episode, and Ice King behaves atypically well. He even abides by standard social norms and doesn't say or do anything cringe-inducing or awkward. One could say this is due to Betty's tampering with the Ice Crown, but in this episode, I did not get the impression that the reprogramming actually had an effect on Ice King's personality. This seemed to be the real legitimate Ice King restraining himself and trying his best to not scare away women who, for the first time, willingly, or in Bonnibel's case, semi-willingly, want to spend time with him. I mentioned in my review of King's Ransom that Ice King has recently grown away from being a crazed, constantly kidnapping and scheming cranky old man, and now he tends to display far more focused and genuine emotions. Last time, he did brush aside his heroic quest to save Gunther for a hug. But this time, it seems he exhibits even more restraint and manages to stay nice and hospitable even in the presence of two women, one of which he had an exceptionally strong urge to kidnap on numerous occasions in the past. Speaking of these two women, okay, somebody has seriously pumped this episode to the brim with shipping fuel. I've made comments in the past about how Adventure Time carefully toes the line on the relationship between Marcy and Bonnie. As far as I see it, their past interactions can be interpreted as subtle hints at romance, but they can also be interpreted with equal validity as things very close friends do with each other. A platonic soulmates type of scenario that very close friends can have. Blushing at what the other said or did, things like that, those are things that Finn and Jake have done with each other. Heck, Finn and Jake have taken personal proximity to new extremes. Disturbingly so at times. So from my perspective, PB and Marcy have yet to display behavior that hints exclusively at romance. It's vague enough for both platonic and romantic interpretations to remain locked in a standstill. But this episode, in my opinion, finally tips that scale toward one side. Only slightly, but the romance aspect in their behavior certainly does stand out more so than ever before. And it goes without saying that the entire setup to the dinner party feels quite reminiscent of somebody bringing their partner over to dinner with her family for the first time. And Bonnie's head turn when Marcy is asked about having a boyfriend, with her gaining that slight smile after Marcy says no? Oh, that's just the purest, highest grade shipping fuel right there. Honestly, I wish Marceline did declare at that point that her and Bonnie are going out so it can finally be canonically established. But of course, nope, that didn't happen. Come on, Adventure Time crew, just feed the Cartoon Network executives some bullshit excuse about how Princess Bubblegum is actually sexless and genderless or whatever because she's actually made of gum. It worked for the Space Rocks? Come on! So, while the opening dinner scenes take up nearly half the episode, the primary plot was about PB and Marceline traveling into the Ice Crown through the science of virtual reality to see what was causing Ice King to flip out so haphazardly. And whoa, do we get a lot of new info in a really short time span. As is becoming standard for me to do, I'm going to dedicate a separate video to parsing these new bits of information on the Ice Crown, since I think that deserves a topic all on its own. That video will be out really soon. It's already in the middle of production, expected by tomorrow at the latest. This is going to be one of those rare occasions where I guarantee a deadline. So back to the review. In the Ice Crown world, or at least a virtual depiction of it, we see good old Gunther again! I'm quite happy to see this strange green dinosaur, and I never anticipated he'd make a return in this fashion. He is quite the character.
Goodbye, freaks!
And I actually find the fact that he's rather annoying somewhat endearing. Even Sving and Santa seem to want time away from Gunther since they told him the acoustics were better outside of town, which to me seems like they found his constant drum playing rather annoying and just wanted a break from it. Still, in short doses, this green fella really entertains me, and I hope it's not the last time we see him. Gunther brings Marcy and PB to meet the Professor, who is of course Simon Petrikov. So here's where I have a nitpick with the episode. Betty's magical AI avatar has been messing with the Crown's programming for quite some time now. Gunter says so himself. But Simon hasn't tried to find the source yet? It doesn't exactly look like there's all that much to do in this world, yet Simon stays in place until the moment PB and Marcy show up. It's a bit of a contrivance. It feels forced to have Simon do nothing until this exact moment, but it's not a big deal and can be rationalized, hence why I'm merely calling it a nitpick. And the way it can be rationalized relates to a general criticism I have of the episode once PB and Marcy enter the Crown. The events after the dinner party was abruptly put to an end feel really rushed. There is not much time left in the episode, but a whole lot of ground left to cover, so everything feels like it was scrunched in and moving along at breakneck speed, with no breathing room or a chance to soak in the importance or emotional impact of any specific scene. It appears like Betty's AI was super easy to find, but it's possible it took a lot of time and effort to actually track it down. But with the pacing being the way it was, instead we got the impression that it took merely a few minutes. The whole journey into the Crown feels like it happened in no time at all, and it's hard to judge how long it actually took in-universe. Simon apologizes to Marceline for focusing exclusively on Betty last time they saw each other, and it was a heartfelt emotional scene, but it goes by in a jiffy. We barely have time for Marceline and Simon to have a moment of bonding on screen in this episode, despite Simon apologizing for this very thing. In fact, in the episode Betty, we had nearly the same amount of dialogue between the two characters. Although I am really glad a reference to Punching Ash was squeezed in. Bonnibel's unbridled rage for being seen as a meager assistant was phenomenal.
I've created freaking life forms!
Okay.
But again, I wish we had more time for Simon and PB to interact, since this is the first time they've met directly. Simon's pleading words to convert AI Magic Betty into AI Classic Betty had just barely enough time to be a properly tender moment. But again, I think the scene would have been even greater with a slower pace and a more thorough conversation between the two. Out of all the episodes of Adventure Time, I think Broca's Crown would have benefited the most from being a two-parter rather than a single episode. Now, like I said, I've enjoyed this episode a whole lot, but I think the pacing problem in the second half is why I was left with a slight disconnect after the episode ended. I came out of the episode like it was a nice stroll in the park, but the events portrayed were serious and important, and should have left me with elevated emotions. But instead, the experience was rather underwhelming and lukewarm. So it was an enjoyable and pleasant watch, but I never got an emotional high from events that, by all means, should have easily generated an emotional high within me. Broca's Crown was indeed a good episode, but it also slightly felt like a squandered opportunity.